Welcome back, everyone, to another emergency edition of the HoopWise Podcast. We have just wrapped up quarterfinal Wednesday of the NEPSAC basketball playoffs. I'm Ethan Fuller, back with Steve Hewitt. We're both pretty gassed, but I would say especially Steve because the boys' side was absolutely ridiculous. He told me a little bit about what happened. I tried also not, this is me like not getting spoilers. So as I go through this bracket and we talk about the teams, I haven't seen these results yet for the most part. So I'm
Yeah,
excited to learn too.
absolutely epic day of NEPSAC basketball. Game winners, down to the wire finishes. It had everything.
Let's just get right into this. So starting with AAA, Newman takes care of business as expected against South Kent. New Hampton wins a close game against Bridgeton Academy. Hoosac is the upset of the bracket, beating St. Thomas More by one, and I know you have more context on that. And then Vermont Academy wins by 11 against Darrow. So let's talk. Let's go right to the 3-6 game because I have been told by you that was insane. What happened?
Yeah. So I didn't get to watch most of this game, to be honest with you. What I was trying to do is try to make sure I watched the finishes of these games, like at least the final 2 minutes. And if it was like an interesting game, maybe longer than that. But yeah, Husak wins 92-91, essentially on a buzzer beater from I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this kid's name right. Dusan Eric, 6'8" Serbian, who's I haven't given him his rightful flowers. Like Husak's had like a really good year relatively to last year. I think they only had like 3 wins last season, and they've had some big wins this year. So I might have not given them enough credit for just like how good they are. I was not expecting them to win this game, but Dusan Eric hits two threes in the final minute. They were down, believe I'd have to I forget the exact detail, but they were down maybe six. He hit a three, or maybe they're down four, and he hit a three to bring it to one. And then St. Thomas More hit a couple free throws, or one. They went one. Yeah, they went 1 out of 2 at the free throw line. So it was a 2 point game. Uh, um, Final kind of possession, and Dusan Eric hits a deep three, NBA range three. Again, 6'8" forward, stretch forward, big body, like can shoot it. Like uh, Division 1 school should be all over this kid. Like
Mm.
he can really stroke it. It was with 1.7 seconds remaining, 1.7 seconds remaining, and Husak kind of goes crazy on St. Thomas More's court. Again, I was not expecting that. I predicted St. Thomas More to win this game, uh, knowing how healthy they had just become with the return of Grayson Pierce, and they played well for most of this game, but Husak kind of escapes with this with the playoff win. So credit to Husak, man. That's a hell of a win for them to go in a tough environment. We always talk about the AAA road home splits. So I wasn't really expecting a Husak road win at St. Thomas More to touch in the play-in. So Dusan Eric, the hero, the first hero of the day,
Yeah, wow.
first game winner of the day. So
That's incredible. Yeah,
um,
and I know you liked St. Thomas More a lot, and this is like no shade to them, but like how does this change what you think Husak is capable of in this bracket?
Good question. I know they've been without their point guard, Greg Brooks, for the last couple of months with an injury. I don't know exactly what the exact injury is. So again, I did not give them enough credit going into this game, and they've proven plenty capable um, with this one. And they're going to go to the Vermont Academy on Saturday with a ton of confidence. I'm sure. I don't know if I'll pick that upset. Vermont Academy looked pretty good today. We'll get into that. It beat Darrow 81-70. I thought Darrow was going to be a dangerous kind of threat as a 7 seed, given their talent level. It's obviously been kind of a down year record wise because of the injuries that they've sustained, but they were pretty healthy relatively for this game. And I think they were up 8 or 10 in the first half. Vermont Academy kind of came back in the second half. Um, Few guys that stepped up, Rokas Zillis, Matt Jernigan, Trey Ambrosic made some big plays. I caught Kamari White, their star, with a game-sealing 3-point play in the final minute to kind of put that away. So closer probably than the final score indicates, but that's another good win for Vermont Academy. I wrote this the other day, but I think they've only lost two games at home, and those games were to Newman and Brewster Academy. In the Brewster game, they probably should have won with a few different bounces.
That's
So
right.
they're
Yeah.
really good at home, and I'm sure they'll feel confident going into Saturday. But Husak obviously showed what they can do. So they're not going to take that lightly for sure.
Yeah.
And then the other side of the bracket, like you said, Newman takes care of business. Kind of expected 101-61, kind of mature win. Like Newman, just they are what they are. The talent level, the experience level is such a disparity to most teams they play. Um, but good win. Quinn Costello, 25 points. Chase Jeremiah, 15. The Bullen brothers, both in double figures. Uh, Lewis O'Keefe with 15 assists. And then they will play fourth seeded New Hampton, which had a fight for for this win over Bridgeton, 72-69. Kind of mirrored a little bit of the game at Bridgeton last week, where they had to come back from double digits to win that game at Bridgeton in overtime. This one didn't make it to overtime, but New Hampton was down 13-0 to start the game. Um, but credit to them, kind of to their standards, just kind of a sloppy first half from what I watched. Missing a lot of open shots, turnovers, things of that nature. But they were still within striking distance at halftime. It was like I think it was like an 8 point game at halftime. And then um, big plays on the stretch. Chad Cook kind of went on a solo run. The Richmond commit, he's been awesome all year, and like obviously a bigger role with the guys that they lost last year. But he's stepped into that role and like kind of taken it upon himself to be the guy for New Hampton when they need a basket or need to make a big play. Trey Jones, kind of an unsung hero in this game, the 2026 forward. I believe he's uncommitted, but he took a big charge. They were up two with like 5 or 6 seconds left, and I think it was on Chick Silla, the Bridgeton big that's going to UMass. They were going for the tie, and he took a charge in the final seconds there to kind of help see out the win. I think Colton Crowder had a look at a game tying three, um, to send it to overtime, but it missed. So New Hampton survives. Another resilient effort for the Huskies, and I'm sure they'll feel confident from that going into Newman. Obviously, a tough place to play, but they've played Newman tough there this season. I think it was in December they were leading at certain points of the second half. So it's a playoff semifinal. Anything can happen. I know Newman last year had a big fight against Darrow. I was there for that back and forth game. So nothing easy in AAA. I'm sure this one will be no different. Newman New Hampton, obviously the epic championship game last year.
Right.
So New Hampton's probably going to be a little extra motivated for that. Obviously, it's kind of a new crop of guys, but um, New Hampton in the playoffs seems to never disappoint.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun. Yeah, I think there's a lot of intrigue always in AAA, and then you throw in the Husak element, and it's a fascinating kind of semifinal slate. Let's go to double A. Moving on down here, Cushing takes care of business pretty handily against Albany Academy as the number one seed is Cushing. Then five seed Kimball Union does beat Winchendon. That was a 95-84 final score. Then in the 3-6 game, Cheshire does beat Lawrence Academy. I know that you picked Cheshire in that game, and I think you had it close too. So I think you were all over that one. And then St. George's and St.
Yeah,
Andrews, which I remember you telling me you gave me almost a play-by-play kind of down the stretch. Like that was a wild, wild game that
insane. That was
St.
an
George's
insane one.
manages to hang on. So yeah, I feel like double A, as we kind of thought outside of the Cushing game, there would be a lot to unpack. So go for it.
Yeah, we almost had chaos in this bracket with upsets. We almost had three upsets by seed, um, but KUA ends up being the only lower seed to win. Cushing, like you said, handles business against Albany Academy, 87-54. I actually predicted that almost exactly correct on the final score. I had Albany Academy at 54 points because I just know Cushing's defense is that good.
Nice.
Um, so little feather in my cap for that. But Ryan Mesh, 26 points, 20 in the first half. I didn't watch too much of this game. It didn't seem to be very close, but Mesh just efficient scorer and just does everything for them, obviously. And like we've talked about a million times. So Cushing moves on. They'll play KUA. A little bit of a surprise for me. Like obviously, I predicted Winchendon, who had just beaten KUA uh, at KUA on Saturday
Wow.
by 26.
Wow.
So KUA kind of returns the favor like 4 days later. And I wrote this in my predictions, but I was like, you know, it's so fascinating with like the rematches like that close to each other. To uh, like we kind of knew Winchendon would be the 4 seed, the KUA no, they'd be the 5 seed, and like was there maybe some gamesmanship there and not like showing too much in that game and like we'll let you have this one. We just don't want to put too much on tape, kind of thing. I don't know. I'm not deep enough into the weeds for that, but I'm sure KUA was extra motivated coming off losing so decisively at home to the same team, and they were up 28 at this point. The stream was like not available for this game, so I didn't see any of this game, unfortunately. Um, but like I said, 28 KUA by 28 at one point. Their guards were great. Brandon Arnold, I think he had 20 points. Damaris commit. Zach Romich, 6 3-pointers. We talked about him, one of the best shooters in New England. He's still uncommitted. So second straight trip to the double A semis for KUA. Last year they lost at Cats in the semis. They're hopeful they can kind of reverse their fortunes at Cushing. Obviously, always a tough place to play, but Cushing after losing at home in the semifinals, I'm sure they don't want to feel that again. So gonna be that'll be a tough one, but that's why they play. And then chaos in the bottom bottom half of this bracket, a heartbreaker for Lawrence Academy. They were leading the entire game up until the final minute, which is just devastating.
That's
I
brutal.
kept
Wow.
I kept going back and forth on the stream. Like obviously, I'm trying to watch as much as I can, and it's like okay, Lawrence is still up, and it's like they're just barely hanging on. It's like 1 point, and then like they're okay, Lawrence is still at 5. Okay, and then I logged in for like the last 2 to 3 minutes, um, and maybe I don't know, maybe I was a curse by by focusing on the game. I don't know, but Cheshire, great boys in the final minute. James Calderella hits a game tying three, and then on the next sequence, this Christian Sarkiki, who I've mentioned a few times, I don't think I've ever seen this kid miss a three. Like it's just insane, like how good of a shooter this kid is, and he's got like this kind of unique release that's kind of fun to watch. I believe he's a 2027, so he's a name that should be on some radars as like elite shooter. I was talking to Mike, the Lawrence coach, after the game. He was like, we were watching in warmups, and I think he missed one 3-pointer in warmups. So
Wow.
that goes to show just like how insane of a shooter he is. But he hits a go ahead three in transition with like I think it was like 30 seconds left. Um, and then the next trip down with Lawrence down three, Alex Ebueno, their star, kind of forced into a tough, kind of deep contested three by John Spinoza from Cheshire that missed, and then Cheshire got the rebound. Kind of an electric atmosphere there, fun atmosphere to watch. Kids storm the court, and then craziest game of the day, in my opinion. St. George's barely survives over St. Andrews 98-90. I know we talked on the podcast the other day. Mike Hart, St. Andrews coach, was pretty confident going in, going into this game relatively. He said he thought St. Andrews is playing its best basketball this season, kind of peaking at the right time. And they showed it. I remember looking at halftime, it was 50-49 at halftime, St. George's. And then I went back, watched some other games, came back. St. Andrews is up 59-50. I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
we got a game here. And they kept that lead throughout most of the second half. Um, really impressed just like how they were like kind of asserting, I don't know, I don't know how to explain it, kind of asserting their will and like they didn't look afraid. They were aggressive, really some really tough baskets and playing strong defense and kind of asserting themselves in this game. Last 90 seconds, kind of just a crazy sequence. I think it was a 3-point game with like 140 left, and Dwayne Chess, St. George's star, was at the free throw line, missed both free throws, and then St. Andrews on the next sequence, Talib Martin hits a three to go up six with like 119 to go. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, that's just like a back-breaking sequence for St. George's, like six with a buck 15 and change to go. That's tough to come back from. But credit to them. They forced some turnovers late in the final minute. Chance Finlayson, who we've talked a lot about, had a big offensive rebound there with like 30 seconds left. Got them some extra point, some second chance points there. And they forced overtime and devastating for St. Andrews. Obviously, a big rivalry game. No one's really expecting them to win at St. George's in as a seventh seed, kind of playing with house money, but it was right there for him. And then once St. George's forced overtime, it kind of felt like the momentum was like kind of firmly on their side, and they ran away with it. So 98-90 is the final score there. Um, yeah, Dwayne Chess, some big plays. He kind of redeemed himself at the free throw line. I know he hit two at one point, and then in overtime he had this great sequence where he made a strong defensive rebound that kind of pushed the pace and got a bucket that kind of sealed it. So St. Andrews moves on by the skin of their teeth. They will host Cheshire Saturday for a spot in the championship game, and like I said, KUA at Cushing in the other semifinal for a
Yep.
spot in Double A championship. So
And man, that
wild day in Double A.
that St. George's Cheshire game, the other game's gonna be great too, but that game is gonna be really, really fun.
Yeah, yeah,
That might be the game. That might be the semifinal game
yeah.
that
Game of
I
the
am
week.
most excited for, is that game.
Yeah,
Um,
Cheshire beat them in December on a neutral court, the Scholar Round Ball. That's when kind of Cheshire, in my mind, put themselves kind of on the map.
mm,
They had beaten KUA to start the year, and then that St. George's one kind of opened some eyes more. I think that's when I put them in my top 10 for the first time. I was like, okay, this seems legit.
okay.
So
Yeah,
I'm sure St. George's will be a little extra juice for that one,
yeah,
obviously on their home floor too, and want to get them back for that loss early in the
definitely.
season. So
Yeah. All right. Double A, as we expected, really, really fun. And then as we expected as well, Class A is crazy. You were on this one. Phillips Exeter as the eight seed.
I nailed it.
Magical second half continues with a 54-45 win over top seeded Nobles. And then continuing on, we get another seed upset. Hotchkiss 57 to 54 against Milton Academy at Worcester Academy. Um, then moving
Hmm.
down, Deerfield. I'm kind of on this Deerfield Magic train because first playoff appearance ever, and they are going to hang on with a 1 point win against Dexter Southfield. I know that's not a seed upset, but I think we both really liked Dexter Southfield because I think you would pick Dexter Southfield. I feel like that was like not a
Hmm.
surprising pick. But yeah, big game, big win for Deerfield, and then Phillips Andover 84, Suffield Academy 78. That two seed beating the seven seed. So we got Phillips Exeter and Hotchkiss in the semis, and
Hmm.
Deerfield and Phillips Andover. Yeah, we knew
Yeah.
this was going to be chaotic. So what are your big takeaways?
Yeah. I mean, hate to say I told you so, but I did pick the 8-1. That I didn't feel like it was that bold. Like no disrespect to anyone. I thought Exeter was just better than an A seed, and uh, obviously I think Nobles is deserving of the top seed. They went 12-2 in class, but I think that was closer than the seeds may indicate. And obviously we've talked about Exeter being on this magical run. I think now it's 17 of their last 18 games, 11 straight wins. Now, yeah, I actually did do some quick research. This is some fresh research for our listeners and viewers. This is only the fourth 8-over-1 upset since 2014 in NEPSAC boys basketball, from Class B. Like I didn't count Class C, so Class B and above. Um, fourth 8-over-1 since
Wow.
2014, and
Okay.
all four of them are in Class A. So Class A is just this ridiculous, um, like historical, they just it's just always chaos, I guess, in
Mm.
Class A. But this was kind of a rock fight, kind of an ugly game. Exeter wins 54-45, well below my 72-71 prediction. Um, Christian Chartier, awesome, kind of spurred an early lead. He finished with 16 points. Josh Belcher, Bowdoin commit, had played great defense, also had 10 points. Uh, Jaden Duverne, shout out him, some timely rebounds, timely buckets for Exeter. I think Nobles was down 14 at halftime. They cut it back to 4 or 5. I think maybe 6 or 7 minutes left. Um, and then Exeter kind of responded and put it away. Um, yeah, so Exeter moves on. Uh, like I thought, they will play Hotchkiss, the fifth seed. They beat Milton Academy. That was kind of the first game of the day. 57-54 over Milton Academy. Jordan Gee, the catalyst there. Alonzo Archbold, Preston Merrick. I was talking to Hotchkiss coach Joe Busaka after the game, um, and he was talking about how, and I'll write more about this in my takeaways, but this is the first NEPSAC season for a lot of these guys, but like a guy like Jordan Gee, he actually won a state championship last year in New Jersey. So while this might be their first NEPSAC playoff experience, they weren't really like afraid of the moment, going into a NEPSAC playoff game. They kind of been there, done that in their respective former teams and everything. And Jordan's actually a former teammate of Dylan Harper, which I just learned
That's
tonight.
crazy. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and they won a state championship together, as like that was the backcourt, Jordan Gee and Dylan Harper. So I'm gonna have to do some more research on that and check that out. But um, yeah, Hotchkiss wins. Kind of a. I'm gonna go on a. I was thinking about maybe going on a mini um, soapbox, but this game was played at Worcester Academy, despite Milton Academy being a 4 seed and Hotchkiss being the 5 seed, because of there's a NEPSAC playoff rule, where if the two schools are, and I didn't fully realize this when we did our bracket reactions on Sunday night, but if the schools are 2 hours and 45 minutes apart, the game is automatically a neutral site game. It is, as long as the game's on a Wednesday, like on a school day. So if this is on like a weekend, like Hotchkiss is going to play Exeter on Saturday at home, and they're more than 3 hours apart, but it's going to be a Hotchkiss because it's on a Saturday and it's on a school day. So that kind of, I don't love that the game was at Worcester Academy, and obviously that's a great facility and they were a great host, but um, Milton Academy as the 4 seed kind of got screwed out of a home game. Well, not kind of, they did. Um, I think these teams work so hard over the course of the season in 3 4 months that when they get a top 4 seed, they should be able to get a home court advantage. And I'm not saying that Milton Academy would have won or Hotchkiss didn't deserve to win, but I think Milton Academy deserved that opportunity to play in front of their home court and play. I've seen the videos of their past playoff home games, and that environment there is absolutely electric. And that's what you want to see when the playoff comes. Like obviously we talk about a lot about like prep schools don't have the same sort of community or crowd support as maybe the MIAA or state public schools, but um, some of these schools like Milton Academy like show out for those playoff games, and that's a great sort of showcase for NEPSAC basketball. Um, so kind of unfortunate. Like I said, I'm not saying Milton would have won or Hotchkiss didn't deserve to win. And at the end of the day, you gotta win the game, no matter regardless of the circumstances. But that's just my opinion, I don't love that rule of the neutral site games.
Yeah.
Um,
That's tough because
so
yeah, I've seen it on the girl side too, and I think it's also very confusing what levels of classes and what parts of NEPSAC enforce what rules and where the guidelines are. And so I didn't know about the weekday versus weekend thing. That's interesting to me.
yeah,
Because I remember this came up as
and
an issue in AAA girls last year when HooSac lost their basically this happened to HooSac and they lost the home game and had to play at Vermont Academy against New Hampton. And then I know this year in some of the lower class playoffs, like some of the seating got switched around, which like
yeah,
it's interesting that that was the consequence instead of having the neutral site. So I don't really understand how it all works. But yeah,
yeah.
there's the travel, just the travel in general is tough. Yeah.
And there was like an easy fix with this too. Like the committee or whoever determines the seeds, they could have move some teams around and put Hotchkiss at the six and to play at Deerfield, which is 2 hours away, less than 2 hours away,
Mhm.
and have Dexter be the five and play at Milton. Obviously, that's probably like 20 minutes apart from each other. And then all the home games get preserved. I don't know. I just think something like that could have been avoided and we could have got all these teams their deserved home playoff games. That's
Yeah.
just my side tangent for that.
Yeah. No,
Um,
interesting.
but
Yeah. All right. So,
Hotchkiss moves on.
mhm.
They will host homes. And who would have thought like a month ago? I mean, to point this out, like I think Hotchkiss and Exeter were like 12 and 13 in the Class A standings like a month ago, and now they're both in the semifinals and playing each other for a spot in the championship. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just goes to show the chaos of Class A that we've talked about. Um, and then just to wrap things up with Class A, keep this moving, but Deerfield holds on over Dexter. First playoff game and first playoff win in program history for Deerfield. So congrats to Connor Merrill and his team for that. Teddy Sear, 18 points. Dexter was down 10 in the second half. They came back to tie it. Elijah Webb with some big plays late for Deerfield to hold on by a point, and another electric atmosphere kids formed the core on that for Deerfield at the end of that game. And then and over Suffield, Jabari Edmonds 24 points, Miles Clanton, Nick Haley both at 21 points. That's their kind of three-headed monster. I was curious kind of how they would respond from that loss on Saturday to Exeter when they blew a 14-point lead with a minute and a half left. That's obviously not an easy one to process and turn the page for, but they take care of business to advance to the semifinals.
Yeah. All right. Again, I have no idea what to expect in the Class A semifinals, so I'm excited to see how you predict those games. Then yeah, la in our last couple minutes, let's hit the Class Bs. So we'll start with B large. St. Mark's, top seed, takes care of business against reigning champion and eight seed Brooks. The upset by seed in this bracket was Masters 56 as a five seed over four seed Greenwich Country Day. Sorry, 56-46 was the score. Then Rivers as the three seed, 49 over Austin Prep 38, and then Canterbury 63. Westminster gave them a good battle, 63-58 final score, but Canterbury will
Mhm.
host Rivers, and then St. Mark's will host Masters in the semis. Any
Yeah,
immediate thoughts off those games?
yeah. I'll combine Class B to finish this up because I know we're running out of time
Sure.
here. But yeah, St. Mark's they were actually down early in this game for I think at least half or most of the first half. Brooks playing inspired defense, but St. Mark's eventually kind of found this groove and there's a kind of asserted their talent. Luca Palermo finished with 20 points, CJ Farrell 15. Uh, they'll move on to play Masters, which beat Greenwich by 10. And then Rivers 49-38, kind of ugly game. Rivers actually didn't make a single three-pointer in this game. And I was
Wow.
talking to Jacob Werrick, and after the game, the assistant coach, soon to be head coach. We'll get to that in a second. And he doesn't remember that ever happening in his 6 years of in the last 6 years of him being an assistant. So they get that done. Kenna Okafor, Jack Millward were really good in that game. We didn't get to a chance to touch on this on Sunday, but this was actually the last home game essentially for Keith Solaski, the longtime coach of 11 years. Obviously, has led Rivers to three Class B championships, two ISL titles. The school announced on Monday that he'll be departing the program following the season. Jacob Warwick, who I just mentioned, he'll be stepping in to be the next head coach. He's been a former player. He's been an assistant there for the last 6 seasons. Um, Great hire for Rivers. Jacob's really smart. I think he'll keep the Rivers train kind of moving there, but kind of a bittersweet night for Rivers. They would have needed Westminster to upset Canterbury to get another home game on Saturday, but as the 3 seed, they will be going to Canterbury on Saturday for the semifinal, and then if they win that, obviously the championship's on a neutral site. So last home game for Keith Solaski on the River sideline. Bittersweet night for Rivers there. And then just quickly on Class B small before we take off, Kingswood Oxford over Greens Farms 94-65. New York Military Academy 61-45 was Millbrook. King beats Beaver 66-65 in a wild one, and Holderness 88-66 over Lexington Christian. Um, the King game, I actually found the stream after the fact. This was also at a neutral site. It was a 3-6 game in Class B small, but that game was played at the University of Bridgeport, which I think is only actually like 20 minutes from King in Connecticut. So it was still a pretty long trip for Beaver, despite the neutral court situation. But King was down 3 in the dying seconds, and Julian Dent, the former McDuffie guard who transferred to King, hits a 4-point play with 1.3 seconds remaining, hits the free throw to go up 1 with the second after being down 3. And
Wow.
Beaver didn't get, I don't think they got a shot off on their next play, but that's how King advances in the Class B small semifinals. Um, Obviously, devastating ending for Beaver. I think they were leading for most, if not all, of the game before that moment. But if you can find the stream, look back and find that was crazy, crazy, crazy ending. And then Kingswood Oxford, like I said, 94-65. Is that right? Over Greens Farms, yes.
Mhm.
That sets up a semifinal with New York Military Academy, and King will go to Holderness in the other semifinal for Class B small. And yeah,
Wow.
that'll wrap it up.
All right, man, got through it fast. I mean, just a lot of highlights to touch on, really, like just with the
I
amount
know.
of down the wire.
I wish we were like Sports Center. We could like show some of these clips.
I know. Yeah.
Um, if we had more time to prepare and get the clips together, that would have been cool to splice up in here. But there were a lot of like pretty incredible moments um, in the quarterfinals,
Yeah.
which sets up an epic Saturday semifinal day.
Yeah. Saturday's going to be crazy again. For Steve Hewitt, I'm Ethan Fuller. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.